Welcome back to another episode of the MX Endurance Podcast, where we look at everything that's been happening in the world of endurance sports. My name is Tim Ford, and I'm joined by the penultimate legend himself, the sexy shepherdess, the sexiest voice in triathlon, in the whole triathlon, Mr. James Bell. Welcome back to the podcast, Jimbo. How you going, mate?
Mate, I'm currently the world's most exciting man. We're amping up, aren't we? We're both between us. We're both ticking boxes and prepping for our trip to St. George to get out to Utah. We're flying into Vegas, man. We're flying into Vegas. Are we going to make it out of Vegas and actually make it to St. George, Utah? Who knows? But one of us is going to be broke and destitute by the time we leave Sin City, I'm sure. How are you, mate?
I am also very excited about our trip to St. George and the fact that we are going via Vegas. And there was this, I think, this moment of clarity between the two of us where we were just like, are we spending a night in Vegas? I'm like, yep. It's like, are we staying on the strip? Yep.
Yeah, there was. It was kind of like we were talking about how to get there. And we're going to fly into Vegas and we're flying in late, so we might as well skip the night. And then it dawned on us we were kipping the night in Las Vegas. And you're like, well, we're not just going to turn up and stay in a Premier Inn, are we? I think we're staying in that big black giant pyramid, mate.
The Luxor. Yeah, the Luxor on the strip.
That's the one, yeah. There you go. Why not, eh?
We just doxed ourselves. Are our listeners just going to rock up at the hotel and be like, oh, I heard you were staying? Nah, of course, our listeners aren't like that, Jimbo. And you know what? They listen to this podcast, so they hear it every week, that this podcast is the official podcast of MX Endurance, the world's premier endurance sports community, created by four-time world champion Chris McCormack, James Bale. This week, I don't think there is a need to ask you what you like about MX Endurance, because the fact that we know so much stuff shows the advantages of being part of MX Endurance, because we have the inside scoop on so many things this week, mate. We obviously...
We're having to delay the podcast release by a day, aren't we? Because we know shit that we can't know until we've known it.
I mean, I don't know what you're talking about, obviously. We're recording this after we heard that public news very, very publicly, and we haven't gotten any... No, there's a lot happening with inside the MX Endurance community, and of course, through our connections with the Pho3nix Foundation and stuff, and members are always the first to know what's going on. Things like Kat Matthews being announced as a sub-pacer, obviously that, and then, mate, it's just a good time. St. George is gearing up. It's going to be awesome. We've got a whole bunch of the team is going to be out there racing. I actually put up a thing like who's going to be St. George racing. There's like 10 people, so it's going to be epic.
Yeah,
I love that.
It's going to be good.
Be good.
And I really like the fact that we're going to an event and we're not racing, so we can just have some fun around it. We can go for a few bike rides, we can do some trail running, and then on the morning of the event, when everybody's stressed and racing, we can just get a 6-pack and sit by the side of the road.
Mate, this was me. Like, I did this in Kona 2019. I didn't race. I had the best time, and then I got absolutely shit-faced on race day. Like, so drunk that my mate Charlie, who did the actual race, he'd done the Ironman, and we're at the dinner afterwards, and I kept drinking, and he's like, mate, I'm so sore, you're going to have to drive the car home. And I said, mate, I'm so sorry, but I ain't driving anywhere. So poor Charlie had to drive. He's just done the Ironman in his tri-suit. He had to drive me home because I was so drunk. And I was like, this is the best way to experience an Ironman. I don't have any interest in ever racing an Ironman, but I'll tell you what, going and drinking during an Ironman is a lot of fun. It's a great day. So
St. George looks quite small, so I don't think there'll be much driving around once we're there, if you know what I mean. There might be some driving around for the fun of it in the week to go and see some stuff, but
riding around, James. Riding around.
There you go.
I'm determined to ride that course. I want to ride that course. I want to ride through those valleys. I want to run through those valleys. It's going to be... man.
I want to climb to the top of one of those canyons and watch the sunset, because I'm a big romantic fool. You have a drone?
I have a drone. Yeah, I have a drone.
Dude, bring your drone, mate.
I've got to bring a bike. I've got to bring a wetsuit. Like, there's a lot of stuff, mate. There's a lot of stuff that goes in it. And I don't know about, like, my one fear, apart from guns, obviously, but my other fear about going to America is I know that traveling with a bike is a nightmare.
Yeah.
And I've booked my flights the whole way with Qantas, but it kept saying this flight is operated by, I don't know, American Airlines or something. And I just know.
Yeah, mine does as
well.
I just
know that when I get to LAX, I'm going to have to pick up my bag from international. I'm going to walk there, and they're going to charge me probably $100 for my bike. Even though I'm a bloody fancy Qantas fancy member that gets extra baggage, I just know I'm going to get screwed with that bike. So that's why I'm
Yeah,
like,
I'm
do I
worried
take the
as well
drone?
because I'm flying with American Airlines straight up, man. I'm taking it straight, not even a twist of lime in there. And on their website, it says bikes. Yeah, no worries, rock up. I'm going to ring them and make sure, but I am concerned that there's going to be an issue with the bike, but we'll see.
I'll be honest. I had it when I went from Hawaii to North Carolina. I had an issue there. Hawaii made me pay, but then going from North Carolina to Orlando, I didn't. And then I didn't coming back. So I only had the one of the. That's the thing. It's like a lottery, mate. You never know. You got to roll the dice. Those the Vegas theme. We're trying to keep it about the gambling because we're going to Vegas, baby. It's the one thing that I'm a little bit like, and I also know how crap their baggage handlers are in the US.
Yeah, I know.
And my bikes are very, as you can see behind me, mate. Like I don't want these babies to have anything bad happen to them. So
tell me about it. I feel like the US is a country that doesn't care, and is just going to break my bike, and then it's going to turn up in pieces.
The most scared I've ever been on a bike in my entire life was riding on the roads in North Carolina the day before North Carolina 70.3, mate. It was I got like really abused, and my instinct being an Australian is to give abuse back.
Yeah, and then you think you're going to get shot.
I'm in America. They have guns. Like I'm not. Yeah. I'm just gonna. I hopped on the footpath and just rode the rest of the way to the course on the footpath. And then after the race, never rode. I was like, nope, absolutely not. Never riding a bike in North Carolina ever again.
Yeah. I think St. George, Utah will be a slightly different experience with wide open roads, vistas.
It looks very pretty.
It looks beyond stunning. Those big red canyons, mate. I am so up for it. I'm gagging for it.
It's funny, isn't it? Because I think when we saw St. George, the race last year where Sam Long and Lionel Sanders had that epic battle, we were messaging each other going, we got to go to St. George one year. And we're doing it this year for a world championship. So it's worked out very, very well. And
it did work out well, yeah.
We're going to train the house down. It's going to be epic. Riding every day, running, swimming. It's going to be, I can't wait. It's epic. Let's get into the news, mate, because it is a humongous week in endurance sports. We say we talk about everything, and this week we are going to talk about everything, mate. And I know that you've got it in the doc, but I think we're going to mix the order up a little bit because the first thing you listed, I don't particularly feel like talking about that much. So let's get straight into the news that Kat Matthews is replacing Lucy Charles-Barclay in the Pho3nix Foundation's Sub8 project. James Bale, for full disclosure, we represent Kat Matthews.
We do.
So we have been on the inside of this for a while. We've known about this for a while. You know, Kat, I think, started talking to us about it around the time that Nicola had a bike crash. And it through opportunity, it happened. And we've been working, like, we've seen what's going on the inside, mate. But firstly, Kat Matthews, Sub8, thoughts?
Yeah, well, like you say, it's been a busy few weeks, this one, getting this across the line.
Yes, it has.
And we're finally there, but the work doesn't stop now, certainly for Kat anyway, because she's got a busy few months coming up because one of the favourites was St. George and then moving on to Sub8. I think they have made the best choice they could have made to replace Lucy. What was that? Are you tuning something
I banged my water bottle. Sorry about
that. To replace Lucy for, obviously, Lucy's unfortunate injury has taken her out of the Sub8, and Kat Matthews and her meteoric rise over the last few years, I think she is well and truly the best choice to be going at this. Now, for many reasons, individual and group. What are your thoughts? I'll go into a bit more detail in a minute, but what are your thoughts?
No, I think you nailed it. Like, Kat, to me, I mean, when you look at when we recorded with Chris last week, he wasn't lying. Like, there's a few there were only a few athletes who we genuinely thought could do this. And, you know, Laura Phillips is another one. We didn't even, Daniela Reef was the person who was originally meant. That was who they wanted to have do this and didn't want to do it. And then it was like, I don't know who else there is. And Kat Matthews was like, to me, was the obvious, like, it's Kat. And I am, without a doubt in my mind, hand on my heart, not saying this because of our working relationship with Kat or anything. I think she's going to, I think she's going to smash it, mate. Yeah. I think Kat Matthews is on the precipice of becoming one of the true, if not, she's going to crush this year. And I have no doubt in my mind she's going to go like Sub8. It's so good. And the thing that I really like about Kat racing is the fact that her and Nicola are in so many ways similar athletes. I mean, Nicola Spirig is one of the most successful female triathletes / triathletes of all time, the most successful short course triathlete in my books. Silver and gold medal, incredible athlete. The fact that these two are both they're weak. The weakness is the swim. They're not bad swimmers, but it's a weakness, and they're just both bike run powerhouses. I mean, this is going to be a race, man.
Yeah.
These two are going to be near each other all the time. Whereas, and that's what I mean. It's a completely different dynamic. To Lucy was always going to be up the road, and this is how when Lucy Charles-Barclay races, this is how it goes. She swims literally so much better than anyone else in the sport. Oh, Katie Zaferes kept up with her at the Collins Cup last year, but she's always been chased. And I think that dynamic was very interesting to me. I like the idea that Nicola was going to be sort of pursuing her all day. But that head-to-head element of the fact that these two teams are potentially going to see each other a lot, and it's going to potentially come down a run. Nicola Spirig, incredible marathon runner. Kat Matthews, incredible runner. She ran minutes. She won by minutes over Annie Haug in Lanzarote, one of the best runners in the sport. And Annie ran a better run split, but not by much. It's going to be, mate, something that this dynamic excites me a lot more, just because it's not the pursuit thing anymore. It's the head-to-head thing, which I love. Like we saw the Lionel Rudy sort of thing.
Now, Mr. Ford,
hands are up.
You're making very good points. Individual on individual. Now I'm going to get a bit tribalist now.
Let's do it.
I don't often get nationalist on the podcast because I don't really care about.
Oh, don't you, mate? Okay, let's check the record. Let's rewind things. And does James Bell ever get nationalist or what's you're continentalist? I don't know. Do you ever get the opportunity to rub it in the fact that maybe UK does better at certain triathlon related events? I don't know.
Hey, look.
Let's pick a country randomly. Australia, for example. I don't know. Never.
There's a difference between me ribbing you just because I love it and actually giving a shit about national affiliation. Now, but what I do love about this is, yes, you're right. On an individual to individual basis, there is a lot of similarities there, and there's going to be a lot. It's going to be a hell of a race, and it's going to be really interesting to see how it transpires. But I think one of the key aspects of this is that this is Kat Matthews is British. We can't reveal any pacer choices yet, but there's going to be a British theme running through her team that she's putting together. And what we do well, man, what we do very, very well is time trials, and what we do even better is team time trials. So what we're going to see now is finally, after months and months of me shouting down the microphone saying, for fuck's sake, take this seriously. Don't get a bunch of triathletes together who may or may not be very good bike handlers, but, and may or may not have done the odd team time trial or gone out for a ride with their mates and trained on Zwift for hours just to be powerhouses in a straight line. What we need...
Zwift are very good. They're the name sponsors of the event, mate. Don't be
Fucked it. What we need for this event, and what in my opinion is the most important aspect of this event, other than the individual quality of the athletes trying to do it, is a well-drilled, well-oiled time trial machine and a team time trial unit of people that understand how a team time trial dynamic works, how best to optimize the performance from a group of riders riding together, how to switch turns, when to switch turns, how long to stay on the front, what happens when a rider pulls off and there's a gap to surge into, where it's best to position somebody within that team time trial unit. Do you want one rider sitting on the front for 180k? Probably not. What you need people switching in and out. You probably need a static wheel in front of the rider that's trying to do the challenge, so that they've got some comfort and security and safety. And also, you'd like Adam Hansen mentioned to us a while ago, and is common knowledge within pro cycling, you don't want to be the last rider on the road, because having a rider behind you gives you an aerodynamic advantage as well. So this vast sort of mountain of knowledge within this one discipline that can be brought to bear. Kat is going to bring that to bear, and I think we're going to see, yeah, all right, it's going to be a race, but the magic is going to fucking happen on the bike, bro. You wait.
So my question then is, James Bale, to quote a infamous cyclist, is it all about the bike?
No, it's not all about the bike at all. But because, no, I don't think it is. The swim is critically important. The run, and you ain't going to get a huge amount of pacing on the run. What you're going to
Allow
get
me
on the
to-
run is motivation from the people around you. But the bike, I think, is going to be an aspect where within the race, athletes like Nicola and Kat can make the difference. And with Kat making the choices that we know she's making, I think there is going to be a difference made.
I think what I need to review my little comment that I just said then is I think what I'm now got to do is I've got to separate out the race, the Nicola v Kat and their teams versus each other, and the sub-8 attempt.
Yeah, exactly. That's what
because
I meant.
I think for the sub-8 attempt, it's all about the bike, mate. Like, I think that's where they're going to see now the biggest time saving. Kat and Nicola are very, very good runners. But I think that, because of that, the run, we know they're going to run well. But there's humongous, and again, something I am learning now is I think that we touched this in this weeks ago about the fact that women sort of ride around 40 kilometers an hour, 41, 42 kilometers an hour, whatever it was. Like, I think there's a much bigger gain to be made for the women riding in a pack with this event than there is necessarily for the men. I'm speculating, but I think that for the attempt, the actual record attempt, the bike is going to become really, really important. I mean, shocking. Imagine that, the biggest.
And just taking that decision making process seriously and thinking, right, if I've got a group of riders around me for this one-off attempt where if something goes wrong, it's over. Then who do I want to be around me? Do I want a bunch of riders who are very well versed in how to ride a team time trial and make myself feel secure and safe? And I think there's a lot to be said for that, mate. And it's going to be a sight to behold, I feel.
I mean, the other thing as well, like, there were real conversations about this just becoming a solo attempt. Like, they really did consider everything. And I think the fact that, Kat has been sort of toying with this idea in the background and I guess kind of preparing for it a little bit. But, like, it's testament to the athlete that Kat is that they're like, we see we see your ability. Like, that's the thing. And we speak about this a lot with other things that, what athletes sign up for and what they're selected for and things can give an example of sort of where they're standing. Like, let's talk a little bit about St. George now, because again, for me, I'm like, Kat Matthews is one of the red hot favorites for this event. And somewhere along the way, you forget that this is her first world championship. This is her first Ironman world championship. She's going in as a rookie. Like, that doesn't happen very often in this sport, mate. You know what I mean? Like, it's very uncommon where, especially in recent years, where it's always just, it's Danny. Danny's going to win it. Annie Haug's probably going to win it. Lucy will be up there. It's like, that's what I mean. Like, that's when I say I think we are really on the precipice of seeing something. Like, that's to me what it is that performance in Lanzarote has made people go, okay.
Yeah, totally. You don't see athletes with momentum like this very often, and I feel like there is real momentum. And you don't want to overhype things, do you, and overdo the expectation? But why not? Let's do it. And I'm gagging to see how St. George goes, and I'm gagging to see how sub-8 goes, because it's going to be a remarkable few months, and I think no one deserves the results and the opportunities more than Kat Matthews is at the moment.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I like that. She's earned this opportunity. I think that's the point, isn't it? Like, Kat Matthews has earned this opportunity to go in and go up against literally one of the greatest female triathletes to ever do the sport. Like, it's exciting, mate. And I just like that it's. I mean, I don't like that Lucy Charles got injured, because I really, like I've said a lot, I was so excited to see the year that I think Lucy was going to have. But from a story point of view, it is just turning into this event and the long lead time and everything. Like, it's just this ongoing narrative and chops and changes and dramas and all this stuff. It's, for me, a geek for this stuff. Like, I'm sitting there just munching, the meme of Michael Jackson munching on the popcorn. That's me, mate, with all this stuff. Like, it's just, I'm loving it. I love it. I love the whole thing. So it's good times, mate. Shall we move on? Should we move on to some more news, James Bale? Now,
yeah. What do you want to do now? Should we do the breaking news that has delayed the podcast?
I think we should do the breaking news that's delayed the podcast, mate.
All right.
So, James Bale, Brad Culp, a writer for a number of triathlon sources, put out a tweet yesterday. Breaking: still reigning Ironman world champion Jan Frodeno will not compete in St. George next month. James Bale, what do you want to say about this?
Well, this tweet came out on Brad Culp's timeline, and I went searching as soon as I saw it to try and, qualify it, to try and confirm it, and to try and find out reasons behind it. Now, I couldn't find anything on the internet. And then when you woke up, because we operate in different time zones, you said to me, have you seen Brad Culp's tweet? I forgot about this one because I hadn't managed to confirm it. I'd sectioned it away in my head. And I thought you were talking about something else. But then you reminded me you were talking about this. And I said, yes, I have, but I couldn't confirm it. And you were like, oh, I couldn't confirm it either. And so neither of us could confirm it. But we now can confirm, as per a press release that has come out before the podcast was released, or a social media, however it's been happened, because we're recording before. It's a weird time loop we're in at the moment.
Basically, under embargo is the way of putting it. This is
we are. Jan Frodeno is not going to be racing in St. George, and it's a real shame. It's a real shame for the race in St. George. It's probably not a real shame for the race in Kona. And it would have been really nice to see Jan Frodeno in St. George, because I'd love to have seen the GOAT race a world championship in an arena, a long course world championship in an arena outside of Kona. But he is not going to be there, so that opens up opportunities for others. What are you going to say about this, Tim Ford?
My initial reaction when I saw I've said this to a lot of people, because I think most people in triathlon have been assuming that this is probably the case, and Jan Frodeno, again, people are not going to be surprised. Here he goes again, gushing over his favorite pro triathlete, Jan Frodeno. He's such a pro that, to me, when you start, I'm like, it's mind games. Like, this guy, he's literally using every single arrow in his quiver. He's using every single trick up his sleeve. He's getting in the heads of his competition. He's fine. He's banked this footage of him skiing. He is in the best shape. He's going to come there under the radar because everyone's talking about the Norwegians, and he's just going to drop the performance of his lifetime. He's going to destroy everybody, and we're going to be like, that's right, Jan Frodeno is the king. And then this happened, and I went, oh, fuck.
Yeah. Is there a reason we're willing to talk about on the podcast right now?
I don't know if we can, mate, to be honest.
No.
Because I'm guessing that it'll probably... Check his social media.
Check his social media feed and see what's been said. But yeah,
but I think what we can say is that he's chosen to focus his attention on Kona. Now, when this tweet came out and when the conversation started today, I've seen a lot of discourse, and I've gotten some messages from people being like, "It's disrespectful. He's a coward. Why is he dodging these people? He just cherry picks races now." All this, and I'm like, what the fuck are these people? What's this negativity towards the GOAT? And when you're at the top, mate, you got nothing to prove to nobody. That's the thing. Like, he has done everything in this sport, like everything. And at that stage, you've got a lot more to lose than you've got to gain. I would have loved to see, as you said, Jan Frodeno, the greatest triathlete of all time. I'm not pretending that I think Jan Frodeno is the greatest triathlete. I've said it 1,000 times. Would love to, as you say, see him race a world championship against the Norwegians, because I still think he'd beat them, because I think he is that good on a different course. So I'm upset about it. And yeah, I'm starting to get a little bit worried about St. George, to be honest, mate, a little bit, because you're starting to look. We've talked a lot about how that men's race in particular has so many names on it who you could pick out of you could put 10 names in a hat. You could pull one of them out, and they could probably win it. It's getting less and less, mate.
Do you think him not being there undermines the St. George race and makes it less of a championship? Now,
yeah, I do.
Frodo is 40 years old, isn't he? 41 this year. I can understand from the perspective of someone who's operating at that level in terms of elite athlete status, and someone who's achieved everything that he's achieved. If something were to happen that would put St. George as, if you break a leg, you can't race St. George. Do you know what I mean? But if something, COVID. Yeah, you catch COVID, you can't. But if something has happened that means that St. George might not be the best of ideas, I can understand from where he is in the sport, from what he's achieved and the age he's at, him going, it's very easy. It's an easier decision, or it's a quicker decision to say, I'll shelve St. George and I'll focus on Kona to make sure that my Kona is going to be the best it can possibly be. Because
especially if it's my last shot at it.
Exactly, because ultimately, You know, if an athlete like him were to go to St. George and due to whatever reason it is that he's not racing, have a race that he didn't want to have and get beaten, that has a two-prong effect. It means that he might be giving his competitors in St. George a boost for when they go to Kona, because they're like, well, we beat the GOAT in St. George, so I can do it in Kona. There's a psychological boost there. But also then you're possibly putting yourself, whatever the issue is, that you might be making it worse, and therefore your performance in Kona might be worse. Whereas if he doesn't race St. George and he says, I'm not racing St. George, I'm going to focus on Kona, then that has an effect of him, or he wouldn't say this publicly, but the wider world saying, yeah, they won in St. George, but the real GOAT returned in Kona.
Yeah. I think you look at Jan Frodeno is a lot older.
That was such a dismissive, yeah.
No. Yeah. I think I was trying to, while you were talking, I was getting my thoughts together, and then I sort of I was so caught up in what you said, you caught me off guard a little bit. Jan Frodeno is one of the oldest professional athletes. I mean, I know we got Cam Brown who's like 67,000 and he's still crushing it, or he's doing well. And then you got Crowe, who I don't know if Crowe's still racing, I don't know. But if you look at real experts, like experts in their field, let's not even look at triathlon, let's look at the world in general. As you become an expert, you get more and more and more and more focused on what you're really, really good at.
Yeah.
And Jan Frodeno is a great triathlete, but where he excels, where we've seen the best version of him, where we've seen his best ever performance, it wasn't the tri battle. I don't think that was Jan Frodeno at his best. It was Kona 2019. Every time he has won that race, he has demonstrated why he is the best triathlete of all time. All he's doing is showing and demonstrating his expertise. His expertise is Hawaii. And I would rather see that. Like if I had to sacrifice again, and people know how excited I've been about this St. George race. You hear me, you must get so sick of me just going on and on about, oh, fuck Timmy, I get it, mate. Shut the fuck up about it. I would sacrifice that race if it means we get to see a primed, ready to go, hungry, perfected Jan Frodeno on Hawaii in October. That's what I would rather see that too, if that makes sense.
And whatever the reason is that he's not racing St. George, everyone loves a comeback, don't they?
To me, it's not like he's just like, no, I'm sitting this one out, guys. Like it is clearly a reason why he's not doing it. Like it's not our again. Check his social media if you want. If he's chosen to say it or not, that's not our place. But the other thing that makes me think about this, mate, and you look at St. George and you look at what's starting to happen. Like I said, that there was all these names dropping out. Do you think we're starting to see the side effects and maybe the negative side effects of this year that we, as people who sit, we're going to sit on the side of the course drinking beers on race day? Do you think that we're starting to see the negative side effects of two World Championships Ironman distance, a sub event, a 70.3 worlds, PTO to a PTO, like Roth, like there's so much this year.
I don't. I think any other year this would be truly excellent. I think it will be truly excellent. I think all we're seeing is this coming off the back of 2 years of no real racing and people coming back into the sport and being like, oh, little niggles here, there, and everywhere.
Let me flick it back to that then, because we've talked about this year's going to be excellent, but is it going to be excellent if suddenly all these names aren't racing? Do you know what I mean? Like, is it about the events or is it about the athletes? Because one of the other things we're going to talk about later is an event that I had zero interest in because I didn't know any of the names in the race. Like,
look, don't get carried away, Fordo. St. George is still going to be truly epic on the men's side and the women's side, but we're talking about the men's side right now because you're still going to have Lionel Sanders, you're still going to have Norwegian, still going to have Gomez, still going to have Brownlee. I mean, still got Skipper, hopefully. So there's a lot of depth, there's a lot of depth in that field, and it's going to be a hell of a race. And whoever is crowned is still world champion until Kona comes along, and hopefully they can back it up.
But I mean, okay, on that note then, you look at 70.3 worlds last year. Gustav Eden, incredible performance. Kristian had the mechanical, but I still look at that race and I'm like, it was a week. And I'm not trying to disrespect any, like there was amazing performances. But it was, to me, a bit of a weak field, Like, I look at that race and I don't get the same sense of awe that I got when Gustav won in Nice, or that 3-way battle between, Gomez, Ali, and Jan in 2018. Like those races excited me. And St. George, I watched and I appreciated. But like Gustav jogged the run, mate. You know what I mean? Like that's why I am starting to get a little bit worried about St. George, because it's to me the power of this athlete. It's the power of Jan Frodeno. Like he is such a force in the sport that
it's going to be a hell of a homecoming to Kona and end of the year, eh?
Makes me want to go to Kona, mate. Makes me want to go to Kona.
Yeah,
like
samesies. Do you think that Brownlee, for example, do you think we're going to see him change his approach to racing in St. George off the back of his recent results, where he's gone all guns firing on the run and then died a bit at the end, and Jan Frodeno not racing?
He's the biggest loser from this, I think, to me. Alistair Brownlee is the guy who's going to have the biggest negative consequences of no Jan Frodeno.
From the swim,
because those two would have gone for it. They would have. I don't think they particularly like each other, but they're both very good swimmers. They're very good athletes, and I think we would have seen those boys absolutely kill themselves in the swim and then kill themselves on the bike. And I know Josh Amberger's probably not racing because I think he's not allowed into America because of the visa. So then it's a case of, well, Ali is suddenly okay. Gomez is a good swimmer, but you don't have that swim bike that Ali was going to have with Jan, and I think it's going to mean that his race is going to be impacted because he seemed, he did what he did in Oceanside. He sort of didn't have that huge gap out of the water, and he paid for it at the back of the run. So it's going to have to mean, is he going to actually go, okay, I'm not just going to go at the front. I'm going to have to maybe work with the pack a little bit and then attack back my run. I don't know. It is going to change his way of
racing. It's like
racing.
Macca said in the podcast last week, isn't it? Which I finally got around to listening to. Patience may be a virtue in that man's world. Bring a bit of patience to the long course game, and it takes a while to dial in these distances and these performances.
Are you still as excited about this race?
Fuck yeah. Of course I am. I'm going to be there.
Yeah.
I'm going to be there by the side of the road, having ridden every day, having run every day, having swam every day. And you're going to get wrapped up in the atmosphere, and it's going to be fantastic. I think that's from a very personal perspective. From a commentator and a fan of the sports perspective, yes, I am, mate. We've been semi-starved of entertainment, and I think there are still incredible names in this race and people that will want to really make a mark for the rest of the year. I think there's a lot to come out of this race, a lot of good to come out of this race.
Does this mean we're going to see the retirement of Jan Frodeno at the end of this year?
No.
I think it is. I think he wins Kona, or he races Kona, and win, draw, loss, whatever it is, he drops the mic. He's out.
No, I bet
he's had a lot of injuries. He's had a lot of injuries lately, mate. And you think he must, to be at the level that he is at, he has been pushing himself to the absolute limit for a long time. And this is from 2018. Now we've had this is the fourth potential injury. I don't know if it is or not. You'll have to check his social media. I don't know. Maybe it is.
No.
Maybe it is the end. I think he's going to retire at the end of this year.
Bet you a beer that he's not retiring at the end of this year.
All right, done. I accept that. I accept that bet.
Cool. You owe me lots of beers.
I think you owe me lots of dinners, to be honest. I think
always the dinners.
Don't worry, I'm going to claim it in Vegas at one of those buffets, mate. It's going to be epic.
Yeah. Nice.
So the next question then is, we have to talk about this a little bit. Who is our picks, mate? Because Jan
for
Frodeno
St.
was
George?
my pick for St. George.
Are we doing that a week? How many weeks away
we
are
can do
we?
it. We could literally do this every fucking week until the race, mate. It's our podcast.
Okay.
We can do what we like.
So we've got this podcast, then we've got next week's podcast, then we've got the podcast
10 that we're going to do in the lead up to it.
On the 28th, and then we've got the various things that we're going to do in the week of the race. So there's 3 however many podcasts we do for St. George.
So we'll pick every week. We'll see. We'll check in on St. George picks every week. But like, honestly, what do you with this announcement? I mean, I think Lionel Sanders is also going to be really upset about this. To be honest, like he's not necessarily because he would have had the advantage that Ali would have with Frodo there, but I think Jan Frodeno, maybe to a lesser extent now with the Norwegians, but still would have been a humongous motivation for Lionel.
And a scalp. So I'd have a scalp if he'd won it. My pick on the men's side for St. George, Lionel Sanders.
Or just Lionel. You know what, mate? I tend to agree with you a little bit, to be honest.
Mm.
I don't know why, but I just have this feeling that
It's that fucking run he did, man. That
I know,
fucking
mate.
run he did in
Jesus
Oceanside. Just like an unstoppable force, broken Terminator, just like mentaling his way down the run course, passing people, and everybody's like, Jesus, where did you come from? And he's
Is that
his bloody
it's so you've gone long. It could be. I mean, I just those Norwegian boys, they could do it, mate. Like I don't.
Yeah. Now I only say Lionel because of another bit of news we're going to talk about later in the podcast that might have an impact. Because I do think Joe Skipper's a name in there as well. But
Okay, yeah.
there's an impact to be had
yeah,
there.
Joe. I mean, Joe's obviously. I'm just trying to be objective now. My pick's probably going to be Gustav, I think.
Gustav, okay.
Gustav.
Interesting. On the women's side, I'm going to pick Kat Matthews.
Yeah, same, Kat Matthews easily. But the other one that I was thinking about today that we keep sort of, it's funny how short this sports memory is Javier Gomez.
Yeah, Gomez, man.
New coach. There's not going to be that same...
And also the ability to fly under the radar, which he has been doing of late because the world stopped talking about him. And he can run. And, if he can sit in on the bike a little bit, and
I think we're going to assume he's going to be sitting in on the bike a little bit.
Then I see him putting in a performance there, and it would be a fucking story, wouldn't it?
Imagine if he did. I'd love that. Oh, so good.
The ultimate comeback. Dropped by Specialized. He seems to be entering. He got a new coach, entering a new phase of his career. Everyone's talking about Brownlee and the Norwegians and Frodo and Sanders, and Gomez just sneaks up and wins the St. George World Championships. Even if that's the last championship he ever won in triathlon, it would be a hell of a story.
It would be. Well, let's move on. We've done that one today. So yes, that's the reason this podcast is delayed. Is we wanted to wait until it's announced publicly before you guys hear it from us because it's respectful to the GOAT. But on the St. George topic, mate, our next piece of news comes from Jonathan Turner at Tri 24/7, and that is St. George is in the balance as Skipper's plans are on hold after a positive COVID test. Britain's Joe Skipper has tested positive for COVID-19. His plans for the Ironman World Championship in May are up in the air. So we knew this again. We've known this for a while. And then he said it on his podcast, Triathlon Mockery, great podcast. If you want a bit of a loose triathlon podcast, it's a good time. It's 50-50, mate. So Joe got COVID. He thinks just in the lead up to South Africa, he thinks that's probably the reason why he had nothing on the run. But what do you think this means for St. George for Joe?
Yeah, it's a real shame. It's a shame that he's got COVID. Everyone in the UK appears to be getting COVID right now. This sort of slightly lesser strain. But I think we'll start with South Africa. I think it explains the reason he was feeling quite so dead during the South African race on the run. I think that because it was so night and day, his performance to what expectation compared to reality in terms of South Africa. So I think it's fairly clear that he'd caught something before then, and it just took a while for him to start testing positive. It's a roll of the dice, isn't it, with COVID? Because it's some people clear it within a week, and they're back to normal. Some people are symptomless and don't even feel like they're ill. We know Joe feels like he's got cold and flu symptoms. And some people are fucked for a long time. So it's a roll of the dice as to how quickly he can get over this, how quickly his body can, completely remove the impact of it, and how quickly he can get back training. And then add into that, if his body does process it quick enough, what's happened to his training in that off time? Has the forced break given him this, how some people get a bit of a cold and you have a forced break and then you have the race of your life because you're super rested because you don't lose fitness that quickly? Or is he going to be left a little bit fatigued and a bit weaker? So it's, roll a dice, man, toss a coin. Let's see.
You're exactly right. I wonder, we joke about the fact that there's that Kona bug that goes around every year around Kona time where they all get this mystery. Oh, I just wasn't feeling that well. I must have caught something. I wonder, it's going to be COVID. I wonder how many athletes we're going to see. And again, I'm not I don't mean to joke right now, but I think we're going to see a few more of these happen. I think there might be a few.
Yeah, because there'll be other names falling as well. And a lot of these people have been in the same places with the same people. It seems to be whipping around the population sharpish right now.
And we're going into the belly of the beast, mate.
We are. But me and my 4 vaccinations, I'm quietly confident.
Oh, he says that, then we're next week. Sorry, we had to delay the podcast because James has COVID and he's lost his voice. Look, I think you're exactly right. That it's not just the fact that he's got it now; it's about that impact that it's going to have his preparation, and not even like that's the other thing you think about with professional athletes is that there's that confidence element too, like how important the mind is. So, like Joe might walk away from this in a week and he's fine, and he's physically, as you said, he might have actually that forced break might have actually done wonders for him. But in his head, he's thinking, it's 3 weeks out from the World Championship. I've missed a week of training. What does that do to you mentally? Does that start to sow seeds of doubt? Does that start to make you, when you are in the race and you're not feeling great, going, oh, I had COVID 3 weeks ago. That's what's happening. Like, that's the thing, I guess, that I'm hoping won't happen is, I mean, who knows? He could, it's 50-50. He might just decide he can't do it because of, he's just not where he needs to be. But if he does do it and say he is physically fine, but there are those thoughts that start creeping in your head because, I mean, like I said, I've never done Ironman, but I've heard it's the longest conversation you'll have with yourself. And if you've got those thoughts in the back of your head, it might make things a little bit tricky. So
I agree. I think, but an athlete like Joe Skipper, he isn't susceptible he isn't as susceptible as some to the negative thoughts that can come along with that. He has a very sort of positive outlook, and I think if anybody can, if physically he can bounce back, then I think mentally Joe Skipper can bounce back as well. So if he's on the start line, man, he'll still be one to watch.
Speaking of the start line, James Bale, I'm going to let you take the charge on this one because you're the one who put it in the doc. There was a eSport World Championship event over the weekend. Points for the first ever triathlon eSport world title happened at the Super League Triathlon Arena Games. James Bale, we both humongous fans of Super League Triathlon, especially there. We really both like their Arena Games, so I'm sure that we both sat down and watched this rabidly every second of the action from was it Munich, I think?
Yeah, Munich.
Tell me about it, James. What was your experiences with the Super League Triathlon Arena Games?
I didn't actually watch this, Tim Ford, because I was busy. And also the start list didn't inspire me that much because a lot of the names I didn't recognise. So on the women's side, Beth Potter produced an utterly dominant performance to win the Arena Games Music 2022 on Saturday afternoon. Munich. The Scottish.
Did you say music?
In Munich. The Scottish star was incredibly impressive as she took control early and never relinquished that advantage en route to victory by a wide margin. German pair Lena Messner and Annabelle Knoll claimed the podium spots, but in reality it was Potter first and the rest nowhere. She was that good. I took these summaries from Try 24/7 Jonathan Turner. The women's race ended with Beth Potter in first place, Lena Messenger in second place, Annabelle Knoll in third place, and Anna Godoy in fourth. Now, Beth Potter won by 1:30, mate. And over the 3 stages, she just kept building that advantage and building and building. And I wasn't watching the race, but I was monitoring things on Twitter, and people kept saying things like, hang on, how come Beth Potter's always doing a different discipline to everyone else? Because she was so far ahead. She was on the bike when everyone else was on the run, on the swim when everybody else was on the bike. And I think that shows the difference in quality on the women's side. You had Beth Potter, who was there, who was so far ahead of the rest. And the reasons for that are unknown. And maybe in London, we're going to see a slightly more star-studded start list. But Beth Potter certainly took it out, didn't she?
I mean, when you think about how short those distances are, the fact that she won by 90 seconds.
Yeah, it's a lot, isn't it?
It's fucking, mate, it's a lot. It's a lot. And then you look at the men's, it's not, there's no minutes, mate. There's absolutely no minutes in that men's race. But she's a minute and a half ahead of second place. Beth Potter's going to win she's going to win the eSports World Championship, isn't she? I think she's.
Yeah. I think so, she is too. We'll have a talk around the details in a minute, but on the men's side, Ariane Raphael claimed the fine victory at Arena Games Munich 2022. On Saturday, as big guns, Alex Yee and Martin Van Riel both finished way off the pace. Yee was only 6th, while Van Riel finished last of the 8-man field as the French star Raphael produced one final surge on the Stage 3 run to claim the win. Aussie Max Stapley took 2nd spot, while Germany's Justus Nieschlag delighted the home crowd by taking 3rd. So on the men's side, it was Ariane Raphael in 1st, Max Stapley in 2nd, Justus Nieschlag in 3rd, and Galanzia Posati from Italy in 4th place. Now, again, on the men's side, obviously, Raphael was the winner, but we saw a slightly tighter field. But what surprised me on the men's side, mate, was that Yee and Martin Van Riel were way off the pace. Yee in 6th and Van Riel in 8th.
Just while you're talking about Max Stapley, the Australian, I was not familiar with Max, so I thought I'd look up him on Instagram. And it's really weird, mate, because he's got a photo of you from Lanzarote on his Instagram feed. Can you see that? Can you see that photo? That looks just like you from Lanzarote, mate.
Hang on a sec, I can't see that. I'm just you have a chat around Yee and
I'm very pleased with myself with that one. I'm disappointed you didn't get to appreciate it the way that our audience goes. Check it. Anyway. I'm very there we go.
Right, yeah. Well done.
I'll have to get our video editor include a photo in that for the video if people can actually see it. I was very surprised by this result, to be honest, because to me, it was like it's Martin Van Riel and Alex Yee all day. So to see them finish 6th and 8th surprised me. I also didn't watch this race, mate, to be honest.
No, I know. But neither of us did, and it's annoying, isn't it? Because one of us has normally at least watched one of the races we're talking about, but neither of us watched this, and it was the names that put us off.
Because I sat down on, obviously this race was like 1 a.m. Australia time on Sunday morning. So I'm like, I'm not staying up late to watch this. I'll watch it first thing in the morning. I put it on first thing and I was looking at it and I was familiar with the start list and I was watching. I'm like, I just don't know who any of these people are.
And therefore care.
I follow this sport pretty closely. Yeah. Like I don't want to be disrespectful to the people who went and did this race. But it's almost the, I don't know, chicken egg or whatever you want to call it, where the reason I think that we're seeing this list of names that we're not that familiar with is that this is now open to World Triathlon. So federations put forward their athletes. Is it a lack of caring from the federations where they don't really see this as serious? So they're not putting forward their best names. I know that they have some, like, that's why you get a Martin Van Riel and Alex here. They're like the wild card Super League entries. But like, in order for this to become legitimate, they need to go down the World Triathlon avenue.
Yeah.
But if World Triathlon aren't then, reciprocating by making sure that the best athletes are going to be there, this version of the sport is going to fizzle out and die, mate. Because
it's more, I think, the involvement of World Triathlon, Super League's vested interest is Super League. And they want to make their events the best they possibly can. So when they're running them, they are going hell for leather to get the biggest, most recognizable names there they possibly can. They're getting contracts signed. No, exactly. So they're paying money, they're getting contracts signed, they're getting these athletes to the start line, dragging them to the start line to make their events recognizable and watched.
Big prize purse, big appearance fees, all like they do a lot to get the fields.
They do. And then World Triathlon, their involvement, they're just like, it's just part of our quiver of things that we send people to. I will send these people to that and these people to that and these people to that, because World Triathlon and the federations, their interest is to try and, balance as best they can where they put their talent to try and get the best out of them. And something like the Arena Games, the federations might be looking at it and saying, well, it's probably a good idea to send this person there, give them a bit of experience of this, and we'll give this person over there for this race. And you're going to see less of an onus on the star names. That's a real shame.
It really is. Like, again, I'm playing a game called Elden Ring on my PlayStation 5. People who know what that is will understand. This game is consuming my life at the moment. It is all I think about when I'm not training or working. And it was a case of I can watch the Arena Games or I can play Elden Ring. And I chose Elden Ring because I looked at this and I just went, I just don't care. I just don't care about these events. I don't want to say I don't care because I love Arena Games. I didn't care about the fields. And I know that sounds disrespectful. It's just,
But it's starting to show the season-long narrative that triathlon is managing to sow, because it's not just about the names in this race. When you see a field of names racing in a race like this, you're not just watching this race. You're watching for signs of what's to come later in the year. You want to see how Johnny Brownlee stacks up against Martin Van Riel, how Alex Yee stacks up against, I don't know, Vincent Louis. You want to be like, right, how's Vince going to be this year? How's he looking at the Arena Games? Because that's going to tell a story that is going to help me understand and predict what's going to happen later in the year. I don't give a fuck how Max Stapley's getting on. I don't know him. He might be well good. He might have a banging year, but right now I don't care.
The other thing maybe is it this case that we've spoken about, that there's more world titles in triathlon than there are days in the week. Like, there's so many different world titles now, and this is yet another world title. Is it maybe a case that I'll be a world champion of fucking Super League Triathlon esports or whatever you want to call it? Like, is it maybe an element of that, or do you think it's a lack of interest from the athletes? Do you think it's the timing is wrong, or do you think it is more the is it that I think it's World Triathlon's involvement personally? Like, what do you think is the cause?
Yeah, I don't think it's a lack of interest in the athletes. I think it's in the involvement of the federations. Suddenly.
So, do you think athletes who wanted to be there are not allowed to be there because the federations are saying, no, these are the people we're sending because we want you to go and do this race? Or
don't know, mate.
Let's speculate, James. This is what we do on this podcast.
I think probably. I think there's probably an element of, once World Triathlon is involved, it's a little less financially driven, because we know Super League pays the money for their wild cards, but once there's an obligation for federations to send athletes, is Can
I tell you a secret, James Bale?
Go on then, son.
I don't really like World Triathlon, mate.
Neither do I. Neither do I. They're a strange entity that exists because they exist, and they don't seem to acknowledge the privilege of their existence. They just seem to think, well, we exist because we exist, because the Olympics exist and triathlon's in it, so we're always going to be around. We don't need to do the best we can all the time.
We spoke about how I love the thought of World Triathlon actually starting to work with something like Super League, and we think it, make it the broadcast better and more excited and all this. And it just seems like what we saw in Montreal when they tried their eliminator. They make a great concept worse.
Yeah.
They've got then.
You wait until they bring their own commentary team in, and it's just.
Oh my! At least it's not Didi every second word. That's something I have
Didi. Yeah, all right, Didi.
That was a good thing about watching. That was a good thing about watching the South African coverage. It was Laura Siddle, and I didn't hear Laura's name mentioned every second word. So that was. I had a good time watching the South African coverage.
Yeah. Are we going to be when we're in St. George? Are we doing some live streaming and some Instagram stories and stuff?
We'll be doing. Who knows?
Yeah.
Depends how many beers we have, and we'll be doing some stuff, mate. We got some plans, mate. We got some plans.
There you go. I see. I'm relying on you for all that, because you're my social media expert. So I don't really know how Instagram works,
mate. Yeah, the oldest 37-year-old I know. Like
37 in 2 weeks. 2 weeks yesterday, mate.
There you go. So you'll be 37 in St. George. Perfect.
No, I won't. I'll be 37 the 2 days before I fly to St. George, or the day before I fly to St. George.
So you'll be 37 in St. George, like.
I thought you meant it was going to be my birthday in St. George. No, mate.
As in you'll be that age. We'll celebrate in Vegas, mate. Doesn't matter. One last thing before we get to the next section of the show is, we touched on this last week, the battle, or the rivalry that it's developing between Joe Skipper and those Norwegians, and it took a bit of a turn this week, mate, and it put more fuel on the fire, and I love it. We saw that Joe was, as he said on his podcast, sort of misrepresented a little bit about what he was saying when he was talking about people need to stop buying into the hype of the Norwegians, and we saw Kristian Augusta be like, don't believe the hype. What happens? The British hype seems to drop off, and we saw his funny ho 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 instead of the junkyard dog. But there's been more, mate. Since then, Pho3nix, the company behind the foundation that is running the Sub7Sub8, put up the video where Alistair Brownlee is watching an interview with Kristian, saying, I bet Ali was maybe a bit surprised watching the Cosmo coverage, and Ali Brownlee's like, no, didn't watch it, didn't really think about it that much, to be honest, which was great. And then there was a follow-up video where Kristian Blummenfelt was shown a video of Joe Skipper, who is one of Alistair Brownlee's paces saying that we really want to fucking destroy them. And Kristian Blummenfelt going, who is this guy? I don't even know who he is.
Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah, how good is it, mate? I love that we're getting this rivalry happening between them. This is the shit I love. I love this.
It's the events are events, mate, and they capture an audience that's already engaged. Stories and narratives around an event are what bring new eyes to something, and that's what we want to see in triathlon. We want to see the storytelling, we want to see the personalities, we want to see the rivalries, and that's what we're seeing with Sub7 Sub8, and it is joyous. And that video of Joe saying we want to fucking destroy them. I was standing just out of shot when that was recorded in Girona, and as soon as I saw that, and as soon as I saw we captured it on video, I knew it was going to be gold, and it was going to be a brilliant video that was going to be used at some point by the Pho3nix team.
Let's rewind the clock a couple of moments ago.
It well.
I don't really understand social media. I don't really understand how Instagram works, Mister. Oh, that's it. I'm going to get that. We're going to turn it into a reel, and there we go. It's going to go viral.
Hey, look, mate. I don't know what a reel is. I don't know what Instagram is, but I know a moment that can be used in a sporting context, and I can give that to somebody and say, make that into something. And they go, well, I'll turn it into a reel, or I'll turn it into a TikTok.
James Bale moves and things happen. He's a mover and a shaker. There's a reason he has a shirt that says hustle on it. Hope you're bringing that shirt to South Africa, mate.
Oh, of course. I'll bring the hustle shirt, mate. I mean, we're not going to South Africa. We're going to St. George.
St. George, can you get me a hustle shirt too so we can match?
Yeah, should we double hustle?
Yeah, definitely.
Well,
I love that. Sweet. That's what we're on race day. James Bale, what's the next part of the show?
Well, as Lionel Sanders always says, mate, welcome to the down low on the PTO.
Well, as Lionel Sanders always says. Well, as Lionel Sanders always says. I appreciate the pivot. You did well to catch yourself then. We're gonna get him. I'm gonna ambush him every time I see him in St. George and be like, please just say this for me.
Please say welcome to the down on the PTO for us, into this box. The Professional Athletes Organisation have announced a world-class lineup of top-ranked athletes for the inaugural PTO Pro-Am race in Los Angeles. The Professional Athletes Organisation today announced that a full list of top-ranked PTC professionals competing in the PTO Pro-Am this year's Herbalife 24 Triathlon Los Angeles event on Sunday, the 15th of May, 2022. The new PTO Pro-Am format features PTO professionals competing alongside physically challenged athletes and amateurs as part of a celebrity team relay. This event will feature 10 athletes from the Challenged Athlete Foundation who will lead the swim leg of the triathlon, handing over to 10 PTO professional triathletes who will compete the triathlon alongside 10 celebrity guests. The stellar men's lineup of top-ranked athletes in the world include PTO World Number 1 Gustav Iden, as well as Jan Frodeno, Lionel Sanders, Daniel Beckergaard, and Sam Long. On the women's side, PTO World Number 1 Laura Philipp lines up alongside fellow top-ranked athletes Skye Monch, Paula Finley, Horry Lawrence, and Heather Jackson. The mixed relay teams will race from the iconic Venice Beach through the famous streets of downtown Los Angeles to the finish line of Herbalife 24 Triathlon Los Angeles, and will be broadcast live and free of charge to both triathlon diehards and new fans alike. Free of charge, mate, and I think this is banging. I think this is a great thing. I love the fact that we've got the Challenge Athlete Foundation involved in a relay with the pros and some celebrity guests, because it's a fantastically inclusive thing to do, and also brings eyes and interest to the Challenge Athlete Foundation, which does such great work for our sport.
So now there's the Herbalife LA Triathlon, which is the race that I think, was it Ben Canute or Vince Louis and Emma Pallant-Brown won last year. And then there's the Pro-Am, and then there's the age group races. So there's the individual race, because I know there's some athletes who are going to be there for that. And then there's the celebrity, or are they the same day, or I don't know, like, are we going to see the same athletes?
Not entirely sure, but this is an addition. The PTO are going to be running it, and I think it's not often I see something like this in triathlon, where it's a sort of a relay and a mix of people and stuff, and I get excited, and I really was like, yeah, this is cool. I like what they're doing.
You heard your thoughts on the couples championship?
Yeah. Sam Renault, CEO of the PTO, stated, "We're delighted to have such a stellar lineup of PTO professionals for the first ever PTO Pro-Am with this unique mixed relay format. 10 of the world's greatest athletes will be racing alongside the incredible CAF athletes and celebrity Pro-Am teammates. This will be a true celebration of the incredible athletic endeavours of all triathletes, uniting athletes of all abilities in a single event. The PTO athletes will participate in the Pro-Am, part of the blah, 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 competing for a $100,000 pro prize." Okay. That's basically
Jimbo.
saying the same thing. Carry on.
Jimbo.
Yeah, man.
The big question, the question on the lips of all of our listeners right now, the one that everybody wants to know is, are you going to be one of the 10 celebrities who is part of this relay, mate?
Yeah, they did ask.
Did you get the call up?
They did ask, but my agent wouldn't agree the fee. The fee was too low. You know. I cost a lot, mate. I cost a lot. It takes a lot of buff to shine a head like this, and it's expensive stuff.
Again, they should have just whacked the PTO logo on your forehead, and then away they go. They would have got more. They would have got more value out of that than they would have from having the brand on the kit, mate.
Absolutely.
Yeah, look, I agree. I think it's fantastic. I really like that they've gotten the Challenge Athletes Foundation involved. Whether the prize money is a thing, I don't know whether I necessarily think that's a great idea. Maybe make it a donation to the Challenge Athletes Foundation.
Yeah, that's what yeah. I mean, pay your athletes appearance fees if they need it. But make the prize purse a donation to the CAF. That's where I would go with that.
Again, I'm looking forward to it. Again, I like these different concepts where they've actually thought about it rather than just like, we're going to put couples together. Like I like this different format, I should say.
Never do that again. Never do that again. Do not do that again. Fuck's sake, triathlon. Stop.
Should get World Triathlon involved and see what happens. World Triathlon can partner with them, and then we'll just be like, "Oh, what was that thing that nobody?" Yeah. Anyway,
yeah.
James Bale, it's that part of the show. We get some plugs out of the way. The first one being the MX Endurance Podcast membership. As we said, we are going to St. George. We have an action-packed week with training and podcasts and supporting and meals and all that sort of stuff. And if you want to be part of the action, if you want to get the inside scoop, if you want to make suggestions, you need to head to mxendurance.com/podcast, where you can sign up for as little as $3.40 a month. It gets you a bonus monthly episode that we record with Chris McCormack. All the good stuff. If you want to know what's happening before the rest of the world knows, you get it on the MX Endurance Bonus Podcast. It's a good time. Help us support the show. Gets us to places like St. George and the Collins Cup, and who knows, maybe Kona. Gets us there to do this content that we're going to do for you. In all seriousness, we are going to be in St. George. If there's particular things you guys want us to do, if you want us to cover things, if you have any ideas for what you'd like us to do on race day, let us know. Because that's what we're there for. We're there to obviously cover the event and do some networking and stuff. So, yeah, if you want to get involved, mxendurance.com/podcast. We hear you guys. You're always reaching out to us, telling how much you enjoy the podcast. Jump on board. Come be part of the community. We always love seeing those signups come through. And there's plenty of you guys who've done it. mxendurance.com/podcast. James Bale, if they want to find out other things about MX, what do they need to do?
I'm going to have to buy some sun cream, aren't I? My natural tan isn't going to withstand the Nevada desert sun.
I don't know. It's spring. It's not going to be that hot, is it?
It's already 31 degrees over there, apparently.
Oh, yeah, you're going to need it. Okay, so if that's the case, then there's a few things. Firstly, that white tri-suit from Lanzarote has to be dusted off and brought because you're obviously going to want to keep the sun off your skin. I also know that it's got full sleeves, so that's good. It's going to mean that you're getting better sun protection.
I haven't got that. I've got it down here.
Yes, please. In all seriousness,
hang on, let me just see if I can find it.
Not while we're recording. That's after the podcast. Where do people go if they want to find out more about MX Endurance?
If you want to find out more about MX Endurance, head to MX Endurance on Tom. On Tom.
Get you. I know you're excited about your white tri-suit. I know that you're back on the Norwegian hype train, your boy band with Kristian and Gustav.
If you want to find out more about MX Endurance, head to mxendurance.com or search MX Endurance on Facebook or at MX Endurance.
This is the important part.
You
need to do this. You need to get this right, mate.
If you want to follow me, I'm at bale.james85 on Instagram. Or you can follow Tim at T414 on Instagram. Jump onto iTunes, give the show a review. You can do it with the podcast app. It's really easy and really helpful. If you like what we're doing, tell a friend. Help us grow the podcast. If you've got any suggestions, comments, criticisms, or, as Tim said, anything you want us to do in St. George, then drop an email to podcast@mxendurance.com.
Mate, pathetic. That was your worst one.
Yeah, it wasn't the best, was it? No. Wasn't the
Jimbo,
best.
a pleasure as always. We'll be back next week. Talk to you later.
Cheerio.